Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Captain America Brave New World. I think this movie lacks purpose. It's weighed down by a convoluted plot, and its drama is really relegated to these sporadic emotion dumps. So, very truncated, and they don't always feel very earned. It's not like a consistent spread of emotions. It's just here's an emotional scene, then we kind of forget about it for a while, and then here's another emotional scene, and we forget about it for a while. And that just doesn't feel very sincere. It doesn't feel very earned. And it just doesn't work as well. There are woefully underdeveloped themes of expectations and optics. I mean, these things are mentioned, and in one of those emotion dumps, the characters do talk about these kinds of things, but a majority of the film is just focused on the plot, on this espionage kind of thing, and those the drama and the themes just aren't there. So yeah, I mean, you can say that this movie has those things in it, but I just don't think they're really truly unpacked. And despite the plot being so complicated, it's still very fundamentally formulaic. It's a revenge plot, really, at the core, and it has very sanitized politics. There's some setup and payoff, but it's pretty mild. The espionage I found underwhelming. The motivations feel half-hearted in a lot of places. There are loose threads where characters, it just feels very like an episode, like a middle episode. And there is no real central arc. I think the side characters have some touching moments, but the central protagonist, he feels pretty stagnant to me. Also, the exposition-heavy dialogue is constantly telling instead of showing. So yeah, it's hard to get emotionally invested. Its acting injects vulnerability as well as chemistry where it can, but wooden material breeds wooden charisma. So yeah, all this is to say that Brave New World feels like a pile of pieces more than a fluent story. Technically, I think Brave New World is pretty sparkless. There's no spark anywhere. Its direction provides muted tones and style. I've talked about previous MCU movies having conflicting tones. Like, here's the drama and then here's the comedy, and they don't really mesh well. But this movie, it doesn't really feel that strongly either way. The drama is very mild. The comedy is very mild. So the whole movie just feels very, very mild, almost like a flat line. The cinematography has a few dramatic shots, but it's really peppered throughout primarily bland composition. Through choppy structure, rushed pacing, and overcut action, I think the editing really fumbles momentum. There's never really this emotional thrust to care about anything specific. The sound has a lot of genre elements that you would expect, and there's a ringing motif that is subjective. The music I found pretty generic. There is some retro thriller influences. It kind of feels like something from the 60s at the beginning, but that's just about it. It's like the first scene, and then the rest of the music is very forgettable. The production design I found to be very caught between realism and cartoonishness. Superheroes are cartoony, and political thrillers are supposed to be grounded, and this movie really struggles to reconcile those two things. And I think the best example of that is actually in the villain reveal, which I found underwhelming, to say the least. The cast has sufficient fame, talent, and diversity, and sufficient isn't great for the standard that the MCU is established, but sufficient is fine. The CGI is abundant and it's supported by some practicals like prosthetics and stunts, but it also feels really inconsistent. Like sometimes the CGI looks very good and sometimes it looks kind of unconvincing and distracting. So yeah, all this is to say that I found Brave New World to be mediocre, frankly. And I don't enjoy saying that. I was hoping to not add to the dog pile on this movie, but it is what it is. And that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description. I'd love support there, as well as here. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks.